to have two of my guests on the live. But before we do that, I just want us to big up the newest and latest addition to the Win Media team, and that's a big shout out to Sharina, who also goes by the name Shine Millions. She's a fellow Taurus, makeup artist extraordinaire, former guest on the show, and a very competent expert in the dynamics of situationships. Whatever happens, Win FM has no choice but to grow from this point. And, normally I would have like top stories. I'm not going to go into detail about my top stories. I'm going to go through them next week because we have, like I said, a pack show. But one of the three headlines I want to talk about next week is Airbnb says that staffers can work remotely forever if they want to. And another one talks about a food company that will pay you $10,000 to be its chief taco officer. You just go around tasting tacos for 10 grand. And the last one is a couple who couldn't make it in time to a Vegas wedding chapel and they got married on a Southwest plane instead. So we'll cover those next week. But, just want to give you guys a little bit of good stuff before we transition to our first segment, which is a conversation with some very well qualified professionals who want to make sure that by the time we retire, we're continuing to enjoy the same fulfilling life that we had while we were young and nimble. So I want to welcome to the live Miss Euphemia Bryce Roberts, as well as Eversley Warner. Can you guys hear me and see me? Because I'm trying to get my computer to fire up again because it crashed. So I'm hoping you guys can hear and see me. And if that's the case, clap once. I'm not hearing any claps. Can I hear you guys? Can you clap once? All right. I like that. Good evening. How y'all doing today? Well, this evening.
Wonderful, wonderful. And good evening to you and to the listeners. And good evening to my brother, Mr. Warner.
Mr. Warner. We have some Warners in St. Kitts. Is he related to any of those?
Well, any Warner is a Warner. And
Oh.
the first time, the first time I visited St. Kitts, I was told that there's a beehive of Warner in Sandy Point and other areas in St. Kitts. And having learned from history that a gentleman by the name of Thomas Warner,
Mm-hmm.
he settled in St. Kitts, and his son Edward came to Antigua. So yeah, all
Oh.
Warners are Warners.
It's a
Spell the
small world.
same, related.
Okay. I like that connection. Mr. Warner, I can't remember his first name. I can't remember, but he lived in Greenland and he was very close to my family, the Walwins, and just wanted to see if there was a connection. But anyway, no, it's not Shefton. There's another uh, Warner. Yes, Mr. Arnold Warner. Very, very, very close to our family. So if you know any Arnold Warner, then we're connected in some way, shape, or form.
Okay. And yes, and I think, well, I'm happy for that little bit of history about Thomas Warner's son going to Antigua. And yes, Mr. Eversley Warner is speaking now from Antigua. Welcome, Mr. Warner.
Welcome. Thank you for being a part of this show. I know that we have something that uh, we need to get to that's happening next week. And you were on here a couple weeks ago, Miss Roberts, and you definitely made sure that we were sensitized to the fact that we are not always going to be young and nimble and sprightly and being able to generate as much income for forever. And so you've come back with a bit of a remix to the name of the program and a new format. So could you talk a little bit about what that is about?
Yes. And thank you very much for having us on your show.
Hmm.
Yes, and the name of the program is Financial Planning and Balanced Living for Fulfilling Work Life and Retirement. And what the name really does is really go into the meat of what the program is about.
Ah.
Because it entails, I noted that you started off saying in terms of that you won't always be young and in terms of earning money, but quite beyond that is also the well-being, how healthy we are. And a lot of our health, our health status has a lot to do with how we live, how we think, how we behave when we are young. So those are issues that would be discussed. So giving us a chance while we're young or while we getting older to really correct some of the patterns that may not work to our best interest.
So that's what this program is going to sensitize us to. It's not just for people who are old; it's people who are young, right?
Yes, actually, it is for everybody across the board. It's for the young and it's for the not so young and it's for the old. Because I think at every stage there is something that we can do better. So even at the young stage, and even at that point, I must say, even as I spoke with a number of organizations, I
Mm-hmm.
got the impression when they hear retirement, they think it's a program for persons maybe a year or so or few months before retirement. But I think at this point, I may defer to Mr. Warner, who shared with me a story when he did a program in Antigua and when somebody stood up in the program. So over to you, Mr. Warner. Who is this program for?
Okay, thanks very much, Euphemia, and thanks WIMFM for hosting us. Um, yeah, I shared with you some time ago that I had this program for public servants, and it was about retirement planning. And to my surprise, some people came there. As a matter of fact, some had already retired. And one gentleman said to me, the horse has already bolted, meaning that he was already at 60, which was then the retirement age in Antigua
Mm-hmm.
and Barbuda. So this program really, when we talk about retirement planning, we're talking about planning, planning, and planning does not happen overnight.
Right.
In other words, you do not build a house and then plan to build it. You plan
Amen.
how you're going to build it, and you determine what are the material that you will require to build it, how much money you have, and you concentrate on your contractor. Of course, you know where you're going to build it, you know what kind of house and size you want to build. So when people uh, think that they can plan for retirement when they almost retire, the horse would have already bolted.
So what's the youngest age that people typically should start planning for
As,
retirement?
as soon as you begin to work, as soon as you start working, yeah.
And on that point, I think I may have shared with you in the last program that along with Dr. Chatterton some years ago, I would have been involved with a retirement planning program that we had put on. And there was a young fellow there in attendance. He must have been in his 20s or so. And at the end of the program, he said he is very happy that he came. He said, left to him alone, he would not have come. But his father insisted. And he said at least he was happy that he had the opportunity to plan ahead. You see, what happens is that very often people think in terms of planning for education, for
Mm-hmm.
tertiary level education, planning probably for family, but then they sometimes leave out that other stage, which all of us will find ourselves in unless we die before. And so the program is really about helping us to, as the analogy being used by Mr. Warner, in terms of building the house. The house is our life, and that house is ongoing. And so therefore we need to look at the material with which we are building that house. And that material depends on both the finance, how we manage it, how it comes in, and how we use it, as well as our mindset.
I think that you're hitting on something important because, for instance, my it takes discipline to do what you're saying. And I, for instance, when I went to get a loan for my vehicle, it was mandatory that I am putting away money with them towards being able to afford to pay for my insurance once annually, and that that discipline, I didn't have a choice, and it's come in handy because at the end of the day, when I'm supposed to renew my insurance, I don't have to worry about going to find X amount of money just to pay that, and so that can actually be connected to your end of life, like your end of your working life. Having that discipline and knowing that you shouldn't have to worry about anything if you are disciplined and planning ahead. Am I correct?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
beautiful.
it's good that you mentioned that. You see, planning ahead. Now the bank is concerned that you will be able to meet your payment. So must each person. Each person must be concerned that he or she is able to support himself or herself when they reach retirement age. You see, because in life, there are different stages in life and different responsibilities. For example, newborn baby and so on, they are the responsibility of parents. Okay, moving out of adolescence, it becomes your responsibility, and you have to plan for that person you will be when you reach retirement age and beyond. That is the crux of the matter. That is the important thing, to be able to have financial security when you retire.
Financial security and psychological
Uh,
security,
well,
balanced
they go
well-being,
they
the
go hand in
mindset.
hand, because if you're not financially secured, I mean, is all kinds of worries, and you know, you're emotionally disabled and
Precisely.
disturbed and that kind of thing. But if you know, if you plan well, okay, you know how much you would need at retirement, you know why you have to plan, you know who you have to plan for. Those things you put before you as you begin your employment. You can't wait,
So I have a
right?
question. What's the format of the program? This is, I think, for the 11th of May. What's the type of
Yes,
format
yes.
we
The,
can
the
expect?
program the program is being conducted virtually, and we have a panel of experts. The program is on the 11th of May from 8:45 to 12:30. And we'll be having a panel of experts. We're having life coach. We're having a financial expert. We're having testimonial. Actually, we'll have Mr. Warner will be providing his testimonial, and we're having also experts from the insurance sector and from the banking sector. So it is really about putting the focus on, using the analogy of the house, putting the bricks in place from now so that we may have the kind of house we wish during our lifetime, during our work life, and in retirement.
Awesome. And I know that people would like to know if there's a cost associated with this.
Yes, okay, and I prefer to speak to it as an investment. It's just like we invest in stocks, bonds for the future. So we invest in our life for the future via the webinar. The investment is only $350 per person.
EC.
And EC,
Oh,
thank you very much. Emphasizing $350 EC per person.
okay.
So then that is really a small amount relative to the return that we are looking from it, that persons could get from it. So persons who may already have retired may wish, based on their own experience, may wish to sponsor a young person, or they themselves may still come to hear some further tidbits. It may be late, but there may still be some tidbits that people could take. So we're encouraging young people, not so young, whoever, to come and see that you could be better at managing your money, have the self-discipline, as Mr. Inanga spoke to, and also look at your thought process and balanced living. So we do not visit the doctor as much. Many times, actually, I was listening to an article which spoke to that if persons reach 60 without having to go to the doctor too much, they're likely to have a fairly long life. And so reaching the age of 60 without having to go to the doctor too much has a lot to do with the lifestyle when we are children, when we are young people. And so this is what the program wants to do, is to highlight the discipline in how we manage our money and how we live.
Awesome. I haven't had to go to the doctor since 2000, so no, 2020.
Beautiful.
So,
You must be doing something good.
I don't know if that's it. Maybe I'm just avoiding the inevitable. Men typically don't
Um,
like to go to the doctor.
No, but that's another point too. That even in terms of the regular, encouraging the regular checkups, because just as you made the point that, and when I'm saying that going to the doctor, it is because you're feeling ill. There's a difference between going because you're feeling ill and going as a preventative measure. So from the balanced lifestyle living, we also encourage that one goes from a preventative standpoint to go there periodically.
Awesome. Well, it looks like my next guest is here. And so I just want to give you guys the floor to have any last words to resonate with the listeners at the moment before we go to the next segment.
Okay, I'll take the first word. In saying that there is this quote, "He who knows not and knows not that he knows not is a fool. Shun him." Now I want to put a spin to that and say, "He who knows not and knows not that he knows not," that instead of shunning him, we teach him. And we teach him as well as those who do not know and know that they do not know. So this program encompasses everybody.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I would say ditto. And it's a case of reaching out to all. It's about investing in yourself for a better future, better work life, and beyond your working life. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for having me.
Awesome sauce. Thank you so much. And I will try my best once time and circumstances permit to be a part of this program and come back and tell the whole world about it.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to you joining us.
Awesome. All
Thank
right.
Now,
We're going to
nice
take.
night.
All right.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. All right. That was Miss Euphemia Bryce Roberts and Eversley Warner talking about what you need to do while you're young before you get old so you don't have to go begging. We're going to take a quick break. My next guest is here. He's looking dapper as usual. I've tried to match him, which is why you see me not wearing a t-shirt like I normally do, looking all scruffy. I could not have him come in here and feel uncomfortable. So we'll have a break and we'll be right back.
Experience the value. Get the cable's value bundle today. Internet, Ultra TV, free HBO Max, and a free Cable Platinum Loyalty MasterCard for only $157 monthly. Feel the thrill of 74 channels of Ultra TV. Feel the rush of the cable's 35 megabyte Bolt Internet. Maximum streaming entertainment is free with HBO Max and the ultra convenience of the Platinum Loyalty MasterCard. Shop, save, share, and don't forget, get a free internet upgrade when you pay your cable bills with Platinum Loyalty MasterCard. Not a cable customer? Sign up today and get more out of your internet, TV, shopping, and payment experience. The cable's value bundle, Ultra TV, internet, free HBO Max, and Platinum Loyalty MasterCard at $250 value for only $157 per month. Call the cable 465-2588 and come experience the value.
Further to the other. All right. All right. We were just talking during the show. I hope you guys didn't hear that hot mic. But the Deputy Prime Minister is in the building. This is the first time that I'm having a conversation with him, the first time I'm meeting him in person. And typically what we like to do, sometimes when I'm meeting someone for the first time, by the way, I can't see us on the live. Okay, we can see us on the live. When I meet someone for the first time, I tend to want to do an icebreaker. And so I'm going to start with an icebreaker. And how the decibel level of your laughter will determine the mood for the entire show.
Okay.
All right, here we go. So there was this couple, right? They were diehard members of a particular party that rhymes with the word Sam. Okay. They were diehard members of the Pam party, okay? And when I say diehard, right, they were a bit extreme. For instance, the husband would never eat a mango unless it was yellow. The wife always got parking tickets because she parked only on yellow lines, right? And not to talk about traffic lights. If the light was green, they would stop until it was yellow and then they would go. They were that extreme. So they were trying for several years to have a child. And then one day, they got the amazing news that the wife was pregnant. And they were so happy. And they went through the entire pregnancy without a hitch. So somewhere around the 9th month, the husband was at work. And somebody was on the phone frantic saying, Sir, quick, it's your wife. She's going into labor. He's laughing. I don't need to finish the joke. Awesome.
It is. I didn't expect that one.
Thank you for accepting my invitation, and thank you for laughing. People tend to say I'm not funny and I only make statements and not jokes, but guess what? You laughed.
And I'm not the easiest person for you to get to laugh.
So you see those funniest out there? You know, you have racists, you have the people that are called funniest who just hate on people who are actually funny. I'm funny. I got a whole deputy prime minister to laugh. Camera one. I got a deputy prime minister to laugh. This is a moment in history. You just broke a record. But we've set the record for being the most influential person I've had on my show. And
Thank you.
Now I can boast and say that I had a whole deputy prime minister on my show. And who knows, next year, if I have you on my show again, you will break that record yet again. Wink. Wink.
Way next year.
Well, next year, this year, the next time.
Okay.
How you doing, man? You good?
I am good. How are you?
I'm good now that you're here. I was worried. Sometimes, politicians sometimes have this thing where they may not show or they may show up at, so I was like, I'm not sure if I messaged Dale and was like, is he coming? And then next thing you just came in. I brought that energy.
First, let me say thanks for having me. And secondly, we are not here to discuss politics. However, I will say I keep my promises.
Oh, drop the mic. He is slick. This is a slick one. Anyway, let's start. What has been the highlight of your week so far, apart from the show?
The highlight of my week thus far, I would say, was probably on Monday. Just meeting up with different persons from across the political divide, persons who I consider to be friends, and just be able to greet them, especially on a day that persons consider to be a political day.
I think you're talking about the Pam breakfast also. Did
Well,
you guys have one?
Yes, we had breakfast. So I'm not just speaking about the breakfast because I would have gone by the Greenlands area during the traditional Labor Day match and would have greeted a number of persons who are also participating in that match.
Let me tell you something about the Pam breakfast. Believe it or not, it's rumored that it has some of the best tasting type of breakfast. And over the years, my daughter's mom, who is a diehard Labor, would always send me. I'm neutral. She would always say, go and get the breakfast, and I had to line up and whatever. But yes, I'm glad that she had a good day on Monday, which is typically, a day that was painted with walks and fanfare and everything. But I'm happy.
I did.
This is the first time I'm having a conversation with you, and I want you to take me on a journey back to the years 1970 to 1980. Because these were the formative years of your life. And they normally say that a person's character is normally formed by the time they're 8. So I want you to describe Sean Richards as a toddler through the eyes of your community, friends, or relatives.
I think you said 1970.
2.
Okay, good.
No. This is 1972, I think.
Okay, yes. In 1972, which is the year I was born.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at it, perhaps almost born in 1973,
Yeah.
because
December 8th.
24 days later would have put me into the month of January, the year 1973. So, yes, I was born in 1972. I grew up in Sandy Point.
Mm-hmm.
Attended both primary and high school in Sandy Point. Back then, it was actually the boys' school.
Ah.
And so I grew up in Downing Street and would have made the trek on a daily basis to an area we call the Alley, where the old boys' school was located. I made quite a number of friends there, I think. And when I look back, probably some of my best years attending school. You go to school in the morning, and apart from the discipline that you got at home, of course, you also got quite a bit of that at school. Before classes start in the morning, you had to clean your classroom morning, afternoon, but you also had to clean the compound itself.
Try that these days. Try that these days and see how many parents
Exactly.
will come and say, "Not my child! Me
Right.
in the school, no clean nothing."
So whether it is taking the bushes from off the ground, etc., you had to do all of that.
And you didn't complain.
I didn't complain about it. It was, part of the custom then. So
Now there's an app for that.
you did it, and you had fun doing it because you did it with other classmates, you did it with friends, and so why complain about it? So you had those days. I remember some of my teachers then, Marilyn Gishard Bertie. She's still very much alive and living in the Sandy Point community. Orelstein Warner, better known as Bimtree, still living in the Sandy Point community. The very well-known Vincent Hodge, who was my grade 6 teacher. Bimtree would have been grade 5. Mrs. Bertie would have been grade 4. Grade 3, I had Mrs. Wilshire. So those persons are still very much alive, and so either to a large extent would be responsible for molding me into the individual that I am today. One of the things, however, I would wish to add is my mom was a teacher at the very same school, so couldn't get away with much.
Right. Actually, there's two questions I want to ask. Is that at what point when you were in primary school did you start winning awards for being the best dressed students? Because you're always you're the trendiest politician in the land, so you had to start from somewhere.
Well, I grew up very, very humble beginnings in terms of best dressed. In school, I don't think I was the best dressed at any point in time. But, of course, you always try to keep yourself as neat as possible. Yes, I like clothes. I like to dress, but that is something that I sort of grew
into it?
Yes. And then spent a very short period of time at the now Sandy Point Primary School, because when I was in grade 6, that school was actually opened in September of that year. So spent almost a year at the Sandy Point Primary School, and then from there, of course, went on to Sandy Point High School. I enjoyed my years also at Sandy Point High School. I had the opportunity to meet even more persons, because you had persons from outside of the Sandy Point community who attended that school. So in terms of that circle of friends, that increased, and it became more competitive even in terms of you and being in a class with persons from different communities and not necessarily those who you're accustomed to. You had teachers for different subjects, and again, some teachers who I think I will never forget for different reasons.
We're going to get into some of those because, when I was small, I was known for being naughty because I was inquisitively destructive. That's the way I want to put it. Because I'd mash things up to see how they work and see if I could fix them. So what would you say you were notorious for at that age, maybe 5 to 9? What were you naughty for? What was it that they would say, Sean? Oh, it had to be Sean. It had to be Sean. Oh, you were the goody two shoes?
No, I
Oh,
wouldn't
he's
say that I
thinking.
was the goody two shoes, but I'm trying to think back as to what in particular
You weren't the class clown. You wasn't.
No, I wasn't
Oh.
the class clown. I was far from the class clown. I do believe I was far from the class clown. I like to eat.
Oh,
Yes. As a matter of fact, now that I think about it, I actually had a nickname in school.
which was?
They used to call me Shallow. And if you know this old fable from years ago, Shallow was this person that used to like to eat a lot.
Anyone still calls you that name?
No, interestingly, no.
After tonight, I'm pretty sure that's going to change.
Probably I would hear some persons referring to me
Shallow,
that
what's going on?
in terms of in the family itself, I think I was known for sucking my finger up until third form. And you had persons who tried just about everything to get me to try stop sucking this finger, and I just decided one day to stop sucking it to you. But if you look at my fingers right now, I don't know if you'll be able to tell which finger it is I used to suck.
This one.
Why this one?
Because it's bent.
It's bent exactly.
Those listening on the radio, he has his finger that is bent. I did not even hesitate. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. This is what this show is about. You get stories that you've never heard before. And, you know, I'm interested in, you have siblings, right?
Yes, I
Sibling
have.
rivalry. What was that like growing up?
That was interesting because, of course, you had fights, especially with my brothers I have.
Who won?
Of course, I would say me.
Of
They
course you
probably
would
would give you a different story. You know, I have one brother who is older than I am. I have two brothers who are younger than I am, but in particular, the one just before me and the one just after me. Of course, we would have had our share of fights. And then I have two sisters in between my last brother and the one just after me.
So you guys were protective over her.
Of the sisters?
Yeah.
Yes, and for some reason, I guess my mama felt that, I mean, she got sisters and we're supposed to be protective of the sisters and we're supposed to look out for our sisters. So, yes. I haven't added that my father was also the postman. So, between having a father who was a postman in the community for 25 years, and so everyone knows your father. Your
You
mom is a
couldn't-
teacher.
you couldn't be
Everyone
naughty.
knows your mom. There's not many things you could have gotten away
No.
with. Yes.
So that means when you did get licks, it was, you know, you had them coming. You expected them.
My father wasn't the one for beating at all.
Oh.
Not at all.
You didn't have okay.
My mom was,
Oh.
and I suppose especially being a teacher, but my father, no.
So, you know, as I was doing the research for this interview, I looked around to see what types of sports you were good at any point in your time, and I didn't see any. So, I want to know, because every little boy growing up is gravitating towards some kind of sport. I mean, they may not go through with it, but what was your thing?
In high school, primary school, some athletics, I actually would have participated in some competitions on sports day, but of course you had those who were better than I am. So I can't exactly say really that I was the best, but I mean, the mere fact that you were able to represent your house on sports day,
That's a big thing.
that to me you had some potential. And then after I migrated to St. Thomas and went to UVI, I really got into playing lawn tennis.
Oh.
And so even I took lawn tennis classes as part of the PE classes, but even outside of classes, we would go on the lawn tennis court. I mean, when I had free time during classes or on the weekend and played lawn tennis, it's actually a sport that I grew to love.
Do you know, people may think that that sport is easy until somebody hits you with the ball and you have to hit it back and it bends your wrist. Did you have the initial?
I've never had that experience.
Okay,
no.
okay, then you're strong. Then me, I'm just weak. But somebody once hit a ball so hard and it bent my wrist, so I had to actually use a softer ball. I do not enjoy lawn tennis, so because of that, seriously.
Unfortunately, when I came back to St. Kitts, the lack of facilities is sort of weaned me away from it. I've since then promised on many different occasions to go back, and I haven't.
That's a promise that you haven't kept. Wink, wink.
As yet.
As yet. So, in one word, I mean, describe what it was like growing in Sandy Point. One word. Politicians do not like this, but one word. It's tough. Dun, 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 dun.
I would say fascinating.
Okay, you passed. All right, fine. A few more words. What was it that Sandy Point made about your experience so unique that you knew you couldn't get anywhere else in St. Kitts? What was it about Sandy Point?
The fact that we are a proud people, we like to boast about the fact that outside of Bastille we are a town and we have so many different accomplishments that we are proud of.
So, what's the common stereotype about people from Sandy Point? Though? What do people typically say? But yeah.
The boasting.
Oh, they're not very modest at all. They like to say. It's fact. That's why they say this where the best be, right?
SP, we're the best be. We're from the town of Sandy Point, the proud town of Sandy Point.
Boasting.
We're not boasting. We're just proud
Proud.
of who we are.
That's another way to say it. It's okay. It's okay. If you know who you are and you're proud of it, then flaunt it, you know?
I don't know if you ever heard of this lady by the name of Marva Warner. She had won the Miss St. Kitts competition during the National Carnival Queen Show, and then she went on to participate. I think it was in the World Pageant. And when she was asked, where is she from? She proudly said, she is from Sandy Point.
She didn't say St. Kitts.
No, she didn't.
Yep. Y'all as a proud people.
We are.
You are proud people. So, all right. So I want to know now, you're in high school. I mean, we go through defining moments. At least I went through in high school that put us on a particular path in life. Did you have any such defining moment in high school?
I do believe so. What I can say to you is coming to primary school, for example, always at the top of the class in terms of performance. And got into high school, the same thing when it came to first form, and I think in second and third form, I wasn't paying as much attention to the subjects, to the academics, and by the time I was going into fourth form and began looking at my grades and teachers expressing certain concerns and speaking about the possibility that you may have to repeat. And I'm like, no, not this child. That isn't me. Wow. And so for me, it meant refocusing and ensuring that by the end of fourth, fifth form, back to that performance that Sean Richards had been known for.
I see some parallels between your life and my life because I also, at some point, was a very slow student. I failed my common entrance to secondary school. And to be honest, I was bad at math and also like physics. And I actually ended up studying in university those same subjects and got a degree in them. So
very good.
You have those moments but what that has done for me is it shows me that there's nothing beyond me.
Exactly.
And I'm pretty sure for you, it was an eye-opener that if I focus and turn this around, then there's no looking back.
It was, and as I said, I mean, that just wasn't me. I mean, as we said earlier, I born in the month of December, and back then, once you're born any time beyond September, and you're going into high school and you aren't performing well, they repeat you in grade 6.
Wow.
That, I mean, it wasn't even the slightest of possibility for me because I was always at the top of the class.
So what subjects did you really enjoy doing and which ones didn't you particularly like?
I enjoyed English literature. I enjoyed principles of business. I enjoyed accounting. I didn't like physics. As a matter of fact, Dr. Mark Hodge, who has an office very close to here in this very same complex up until now, he and I still would joke around about it. He was not only my physics teacher in third form, but I think by the time I got into fourth form, he was the class teacher, and he would tell you we just never got along during those days because I just did not like physics. So we were always at it.
So you always had this propensity for education at towards your latter years, right? So you would you say you were a bit of a nerd?
I wouldn't consider myself to have been a nerd because I think I had that
Nerds are
balance.
cool, by the way. They make the best prime ministers. Wink, wink, wink.
No, but honestly, I think I had that balance between academics and everything else. When I finished high school, interestingly, I didn't want to go to sixth form. I really didn't want to go to the sixth form. And it so worked out for me that as soon as I was finished with high school, my father was already living in the Virgin Islands, and so my mom decided to migrate there at that particular point in time. So it was straight from high school to live in St. Thomas, and the thinking then by my father and my mother was, okay, he's 16 still, so get him to go back into high school, spend the next 2 years, because normally they would graduate at the age of 18. It so happened for one reason or the next that didn't work out. And so finished school June, July. There was a hurricane that year, and so the semester was pushed back until February for university. So by February, within a few short months, I was actually in university.
Wow.
In the University of the Virgin Islands.
It's amazing that you've gone there, because in my line of questioning, UVI was the very next thing I wanted to ask about. So I love it that we're flowing. This is good energy we're creating. UVI, that was an experience. Did you have lots of fun there?
I had lots of fun at UVI. Of course, it was a different experience.
Different from St. Kitts too, right?
Totally different. And I think those who attended sixth form, they had the advantage from the point of view that they were already accustomed to having that sort of independent sort of learning that you get at university as opposed to high school. So for me, I had to make that particular adjustment, and even in terms of GPA, that was something totally new because I wasn't accustomed to the system in terms of GPA, etc. But I met a number of other persons from St. Kitts who I had not known because, of course, I grew up in Sandy Point, attended Sandy Point High School, so those who would have gone to some of the other secondary schools, I didn't know them. Those who, in particular, who would have gone on to sixth form and then eventually into UVI, you met a number of those persons at UVI.
So I want you to tell me a story, either from your experience in UVI or Cleveland, Ohio. There's got to be one story that was memorable or funny or just make everybody be like, Sean? There's got to be one. And if there's none, that's okay. We can make one up.
No, I'm not going to make up one. I think one of the most memorable ones for me would have been at Cleveland State University. I used to work in the library, and my duties entailed reshelving books.
Okay.
And it's a job that I hated, just didn't like it. And you get to work, and I would sign in, and there was a computer lab, I think, on the third floor of the library. And sometimes I would just go in the computer lab, and I would sit in there for hours until time come to finish working. And then I would go, we serve some books, and one day the supervisor passed by, and he saw me. And he said, "Oh, we have been looking for you and we can't find you." And I said, "I don't understand." I said, "I just came in the lab." And he said, no, this is something which is ongoing." And we had an argument. And I said, no. I said, "You're questioning my integrity?" I said, no. As a matter of fact, you know what? I want a transfer. I want a transfer. I can't work with you any longer. I need a transfer. And so I was transferred to the front desk to check out books, and I completely enjoyed that experience because you then got the opportunity to interact with the different persons coming into the library to utilize the services offered.
It seems as though from back then you had the propensity for effecting change in your situation when you want to do something better.
I've always believed in doing that. If it is that you're doing something and you aren't satisfied with it, I think
do something about it.
Do something about it. You just don't continue to do it if you aren't getting that satisfaction from it.
So I have a lot of respect for you, by the way, because I see that you are on your way towards completing your PhD.
Yes, I am.
And I want to get a PhD, but not for the same reasons as you. I just want to be called Dr. Inanga. I love the way it sounds.
How do you determine that your reasons are different to my reasons?
I just want to be called Dr. Inanga. Trust me.
All right.
That's it. I love the way it sounds. You cannot go and spend all
I
that
suppose
time.
my reasons are different.
Very
then.
different. But let's talk about your dissertation. This is where we can get all geeky. I mean, I'm also a bit of an academic myself. So what is your dissertation about? And we can flex your academic muscles here.
Okay. So I finished all of the core classes since February of this year. So it's basically now just the dissertation to complete. In terms of the dissertation, I'm looking at gang violence, especially here the focus is actually here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and looking at how those persons who would have been in gang violence use creative problem solving to disengage from gang violence.
Oh, so you've had lots of interviews.
I haven't done the interviews aspect of it yet. As I said, I finished the core classes in February, and my goal actually was to be graduating next month. But with all the political turmoil at this point in time, I haven't been able to focus as much on the dissertation as I had intended to.
But I'm really interested in knowing what your findings will be about that creative methods that they come up with themselves.
Yes.
Interesting. Because sometimes, right, you have two siblings fighting, and I think my mom did this once where my brothers were fighting and she gave them a knife. And of course, they're not going to do anything, right? You've seen situations where you have two dogs with a gate in between them, and as soon as the gate opens, they stop. So there's something about human beings, the human nature, that says we can actually de-escalate in our own way. So I don't know what those metrics are, but that's why you're doing this PhD and I'm asking these questions.
Exactly.
So I would hope that you would come and tell us about your findings, because that's another way to enforce a dimension of a peace initiative. Because you're learning from these persons about how they are fostering peace with very little incentives from externally. You know?
I agree with you. And initially, when I began looking at it, I was thinking maybe look at it in terms of intrinsic motivation versus intrinsic motivation in terms of, involving gang activity. You have the peace program, and I've taken advantage of it, yes. But what really it is, why I've taken advantage of the peace initiative, is it that I'm intrinsically motivated, and so it really just became an avenue for me to get out of gang violence. So for example, I have children, and so because I now have children, my focus is different. Or maybe it is that whatever it is that attracted me to the gang no longer attracts me. But sometimes it is that you can't leave because you have certain fears if you leave the gang. So I was going to look at it from that particular angle. But then speaking with the chairperson for the committee, because the PhD is actually in creative leadership for innovation and change. So there was a suggestion to look at it in terms of how do they use creative problem solving to disengage from gang activity. So maybe it is someone, I have a conflict with someone, and so even though I'm part of the peace initiative, and yes, because this is what I'm accustomed to, I could have gone, taken up a gun and decide to go after that person. But in what way am I now using creative problem solving to stay out of this type of activity? Is it I'm sitting down with the different persons who now have conflict with and solving the problems that I have? What you begin to look at, okay, what the problems are. What are the problems and how do I avoid those particular problems? How do I ensure that those problems don't cause me to go back to engage in gang violence?
I can't wait. By the way, my brother just corrected me. He says nobody ever gave us a knife. Okay, Jason, I stand to be corrected. All I know is that you and Glenn used to fight, and I think that you guys were given some liberty to fight and make up and figure things out. I think I could be corrected, and I will. If you want to correct me again, as my big brother, I will go. I'll humbly apologize for. And also to my mom for painting you in that light. Do not sue me and do not get me in trouble again.
I'm sure he will not.
And if you want to, anyway, that's it. I've said my piece, and we are having peace. You see, that was a creative way
Exactly.
of creating peace. So coming full circle, Mr. Richards, how have all of these experiences influenced your initial decision to enter into the political arena? And that is your early life, your education, your social life, and your upbringing, and everything. Tie everything together.
Interesting question, because I never thought that I had an interest in politics in those formative years. Yes, attended the youth arm for the People's Action Movement, and I think persons perhaps more saw the politician in me back then than I saw it in myself. So came back here right after finishing my first degree, and again got involved in the politics, right back into the politics. Hugh Heiliger was the then representative for Sandy Point, became his campaign manager, and got involved in getting persons registered to vote and doing so many different things. And the interest developed, but I think God has a way of ordering our steps.
Say that again.
Because you take, for example, when I was going to UVI, I had to do 2 classes in speech communication, and you're doing a bachelor's degree, and UVA is a liberal arts program, and you ask yourself, okay, I'm doing this degree in business management. Why you have to do this class in terms of every single class session you have to get up and speak in front of persons? And we see in terms of that particular practice, how it has become helpful.
Yep.
And again, when I finished with UVI and I came back here, and after working 2 years in the government audit office, which I think has also served me well in terms of understanding the workings.
Attention to detail too.
Attention to details, understanding the workings of government. So by the time I got into government, because you work in the audit office, and as you work in the audit office, you have to interface with just about every government ministry and a department. You get an idea as to how the government functions.
Sweet.
So that it wasn't necessarily a new experience in terms of the functioning of government, how the different offices interface with each other, etc. So I got that experience. And then when I was going to do my master's degree, I was undecided as to what should I study. My first inclination was to go into corporate law. At that point in time, I had a green card. And I said to myself, you went straight from high school to do a bachelor's degree. I've worked for just about 2 years, back to school to do a master's, to do law. And if I'm going to do law in the US system and then be able to practice in the British system, I'm looking at about the next 4 to 5 years of school. And
Boy, that's a long time.
And
That's a
I'm
professional student.
I'm like, do I want to go back to school for the next 4 to 5 years? I don't think so.
Okay.
So I began thinking, what else can I do that will still allow me to end up with a professional designation so that in the event I want to work for myself, I have that option. I said, okay, I've worked as an auditor. I liked accounting in school. And there was a brief period before I actually started school at Cleveland State when I'd moved back to St. Thomas. And I'd done some accounting jobs. So I said, okay, accounting. began looking at accounting schools, and a few of them said to me, well, your undergrad wasn't in accounting, so we cannot accept you into the Masters of Accounting program. Cleveland State, however, said to me, yes, we'll accept you into the Masters of Accounting program, but first you have to do some undergrad accounting classes, in addition to, maybe I think I'd done 2 or 3 of them while doing my undergrad. I said, fair enough, no problem. The school was on the quarter system. So I went, did the undergraduate accounting classes within 15 months because it was on the quarter system. I graduated with a master's in accounting and financial information systems. Came back to St. Kitts again because I had the option of living
There.
So came back to St. Kitts again and worked at TDC. And then by 2002, I think it was. So I came back here in 98. And I think 4 years later, in 2002, I said, time to go and become the professional accountant that you said you're going to be since you did not study law. And so went off to Columbus, Ohio, where
The CPA.
a brother lives. And so did the review course for the CPA. It's
It's a very difficult.
It actually is considered to be the most difficult professional exam.
I beg to differ. There's the CCIE, there's the Cisco courses, which I'm not going to do because they're that. But anyway.
And back then, you had to do all 4 parts of the exam within 2 days. So you go one morning, you do one part, the afternoon you do the next part, you go the second day, you do one part, the third part, and then the afternoon you do the 4th part. I think it was financial, accounting, auditing, law, and governmental accounting.
He's bright.
And you
People,
had to
he's
get, I think, at
exceedingly
least
bright.
a 75% on each part of
Wow.
it to pass the exam. And I remember the morning when I was going to do the exam, I was told you have to drive it to the exam center yourself. And I'm like, I don't live here. I don't even know where the exam center is.
No GPS.
Why? No GPS. Why of all mornings you're going to do that to me? Because even to go and do the review courses which were held at Columbus State University, between my brother and a friend of his, they would drop me and they would pick me back up. And the one morning they told me I have to drive. And so you look for your directions and you wrote them out on a piece of paper, and you're driving, you take this turn, you take that turn. And I made a wrong turn the morning, and I'm like, wow. And you have to be at the exam site a certain number of minutes before the exam starts. And I'm like, wow, this is it for me.
Wow.
But fortunately, you're not in the US. I mean, you take a wrong turn sometimes, there's an next turn, and exit, you just jump back on the exit. And so fortunately, I got to the exam site on time.
Without
in the morning,
GPS.
Without a GPS. And you know, you're waiting for the results a few months after that. And I was like, I mean, I took leave from work from TDC. I'm like, I ain't come back here to go do any other part of this exam again. So the morning when I got back the results, I mean, I actually shouted because I passed all parts of the exam. So that again, I think helped to prepare me in terms of the politics. Because eventually I left TDC in 2012 when I became the leader of the People's Action Movement. And so between 2012 and 2015, in terms of survival and being able to pay bills, I had to then start doing some of that private accounting. Yes, private practice. And so I was able to do some of that between 2012 and 2015. So sometimes you're on a particular journey and you're not even sure as to why, but as I said, God ordains our steps in a particular way.
You can say that again.
I'm certain that He did that in my particular case. And so in 2004, when I was working at TDC, He took my first plunge in terms of becoming a candidate. And I was determined to win then. I did, and since then I've been successful.
You know, at times entering into a new space is met with a degree of fear. So what was it that was initially scaring you, and just the thought about it, just going into that space, and how were you able to overcome that fear, if you had any?
I did. I think it would not be natural if I didn't have any particular fears. I mean, here it is. I mean, you're part of a party that has no seat, zero. And you had some of the heavyweights of Labour back then, the Dwyer Astafans, the Timothy Harris, the Denzel Douglas, Sam Conde, etc. And these are persons who, they're coming after you.
And you're young.
And I'm young, and this is a first-time experience for me. And so you even wonder, I mean, yes, as much as you tell yourself you're going to win, there's always that risk that you're not going to. And then you see so many persons as they go through the political battlefield, they become labeled. And so if you aren't successful, nobody wants to hire you, people don't want to associate with you. People just, you have persons who just hate you because of the political party that you're affiliated with. They don't know you, you haven't done them anything, they say you, they curse you. Sometimes you wonder, should I say hello to this person? Should I say hello to that person? You say hello and they ask you, well, who you saying hello to? And it's not that they know you, but they judge you because of the political party that you are affiliated with. And so you had that to contend with. And then you win the election, and I remember driving home that night and I'm crying. Aww. Driving home by myself and I'm crying. And I'm crying because, yes, I've won. But on the other hand, I'm going to be in opposition all by myself as the lone representative.
Wow.
And so you have to go into the parliament, and of course you have to become engaged in debates with these individuals, but I've always tried as best as possible to go in prepared. And I think that has worked well.
Especially with the budget too.
Especially with the budget. So I always try to
flex
prepare
your ACCA muscles there.
And go in well prepared. So again, I think that worked for me because I spent my time in opposition. So I understand both opposition and government.
It takes a village and a community. I want you to now talk about your support system throughout this whole process. And feel free to name drop as much as you want. How was that? Who has been those stalwarts who have been there when you're low and just, affirming that, listen, we got you. How has that been for you?
It's certainly my parents, because they've always been very supportive. I've said to persons that one of the things I really respect about my parents, they don't choose for you. If they have to offer guidance, they do offer guidance. But unlike some parents who want to tell you, well, dictate to you, this is what you're going to do. No, I haven't had that coming from my parents, so they have been quite supportive. Even in terms of my political career, they're there, they are supportive. If they feel the need to say something, of course, they say it, but in a respectful way, and at the end of the day, they understand that, it is really my decision to make. So you have had those. I've said to you that, there's some teachers who I will never forget, both in primary school and in high school. There are also persons in terms of the political arena who I think have always given me very good political advice. Of course, you have Sir Kennedy as one of those persons. But
he's racing tomorrow, by the way.
Yes, actually, I met the British High Commission this afternoon, and he told me that he is running with Sir Kennedy.
Yes, he told me just about an hour ago. He says, and they literally met, and he says, I'm about to race you tomorrow.
So he asked me, he said, do you believe he's going to beat me? Because similar conversation we're having about lawn tennis, and I said, well, Sir Kennedy is one who is into lawn tennis. He has his own lawn tennis court in the back of his house. He says, he's fit, so he's going to beat me. But to go back, and one of the other persons who I actually would add is Dame Constance Mitchum. She has always been supportive. She has given very good political advice. The former leader of the People's Action Movement, Lindsey Grant, the very good political advice and always supportive, even now as the one of the two deputy political leaders. So I've met a number of persons. One of the persons who I would also want to mention, though the person is now deceased, is Hilary Hunkins. Hilary Hunkins was a very close friend of mine, one who I could always depend upon to give me frank and good political advice. As a matter of fact, when I entered the arena in 2004, I called upon him to be my campaign manager because I felt in terms of someone who has those particular managerial skills, that he possessed those managerial skills. I didn't expect him to go out and do any canvassing, anything of that particular nature, and he didn't. I wanted somebody to manage, and I called upon him to do that, and he agreed, and I will always be quite thankful for not just that in terms of the politics, but as I said, he's someone, I was able to sit down and have any particular discussion with, and he always gave very good advice. I remember a period of my life when I was going through some particular trials, and I'll never forget the advice that he gave me then, that I can still vividly recall, and up until this day, I still practice it.
This is a good segue to my next question, because I know nobody is perfect, but the pursuit of growth is what makes all of us better versions of ourselves. So I'm interested in knowing what it is that you feel that that you still have to work on to be a better person, a better politician, a better leader. And please don't say dressing. You're good. I want something else that you're working on.
I certainly would not say dressing, not at all, at all, at all.
You got that.
I think one of the things that you mean, I am one of those persons. I'm a very frank person, very plain. I'm not a diplomatic at all. I don't think I would make for a good diplomat, and sometimes maybe it is I need to temper what it is I say, and having said temper what it is I say, I'm also a person I could be very calm now, and I don't tolerate nonsense. And so from the time I hear nonsense, one of the things I'll just shut off on you. I'll just shut off on you. I could come in here and you and I could be in here sitting down and I have absolutely nothing to say to you. You get me upset, I have nothing to say to you. I ain't dealing with you. And that sometimes isn't the best way to deal with certain issues.
I really respect you for not shying away from that question. You didn't dance. Politicians are wonderful dancers, and you did not dance. You just you're a straight shooter. You're not a dancer.
Well, as I said to you, I'm a very plain person, and
wow.
I would say to persons when it comes to singing and dancing, those aren't my strong points.
Wow, he's a straight shooter. Not dance. He's not going to be dancing with the stars anytime soon.
No.
What's the difference between Mohawk Sean and non-Mohawk Sean, by the way?
There is no difference between Mohawk Sean and non-Mohawk Sean, and you know what I mean. It's interesting that you ask that question, because, and let me go back even to before the Mohawk.
All right.
Because if you look very closely, you probably cannot tell. Both ears are pierced.
Oh, I can't tell.
You can't tell.
No.
Because they were done with me one of the piercing guns, and you can't tell. But both ears are pierced. And so if you give me a pair of earrings now, I can put them in and prove to you both ears are pierced. And I pierced the first one, I think, just probably when I moved back. I think when I moved back to St. Thomas, I pierced the first one. As a matter of fact, I remember one day, my younger brother, and both brothers had locks, but the one eventually joined the U.S. Army, and so he had to cut the locks. But the younger one, Kevin, some person's name as a Ducky, he has locks. And one day we left home, and we decided we're going to pierce our ears. And we had some argument that day. And he said, you know what, I ain't going to pierce no ear with you. you go by yourself. And so I decided I ain't going. My parents didn't argue about it because by that time you are adults. As a matter of fact, I can tell you this much. My sisters pierced their ears when they became adults because my parents left that decision
Thank you.
for them
We need more
to make.
Same thing with my daughter. She's not piercing her ears until she makes that decision herself.
Okay, so, yes, so I decided. I ain't doing it. You upset me, I ain't piercing the ear with you. So he did it on his own. I think he might have actually pierced both of them at the same time. But eventually, I went and I did it. And then I think it's after I finished the master's degree and just before I came back here, I pierced the second one. And not only that, when I went and so when I came back here with the master's degree, both ears were pierced. And I wore the earrings. And then when I was doing the CP exam, I began putting twigs in my ear. You saw around here, you shaved and to the top,
Wow.
twigs. Eventually, like the locks up.
Metamorphosis. We're going through metamorphosis here.
And so I came back and I'm into the politics. I'm speaking on the political platform and you get the criticisms from persons. How you could be a politician and your ears pierced and you have your hair like that. And I'm like, what difference does it make?
Right.
Eventually, he did cut my hair. And even when I was working at TDC, I remember a particular director saying to me at one point in time, because I was the board, I served as the board secretary at one point in time, a particular director said to me, "Hey, but when you came back here, you said that hairstyle is only temporary. It's a month now, and you still have that particular hairstyle, and what it is you intend to do." And I basically acknowledged the conversation and moved right along.
Typical Sean.
But for me, part of it was proving a point too.
Yeah.
Because a hairstyle really has
Doesn't
nothing to do with
your
work
substance.
performance.
Right.
And then for me, it was also sending a message in terms of other young persons that you are not to be defined by your hairstyle.
Say that again, because we have schools that are making an issue when people come to school in their dreads, you know?
You are not to be defined by your hairstyle.
Right, thank you. So that's, again,
And
change.
then, so, became an elected member of parliament, and I am going to parliament with earrings in both ears, and it became one big issue. How you could be coming in here with earrings in your ear. And I remember the former Prime Minister, Dr. Douglas, also made it an issue. And it's like he spoke, and I just looked at him, move right along. And for me, I was like, you want to make it an issue? Well, it's an issue for you, not for me. And I eventually took out the earrings in 2012 when I became the leader of PAM. And I took them out then because I determined, okay, the leadership of the party has changed and I don't want persons to focus on
It's
earrings
a distraction.
rather than
Right.
the message.
Thank you.
And so that's the only reason I decided.
But that's maturity.
take them out.
That is a very mature way, and also you sacrifice your paradigms for the greater good.
And I'll say quite publicly, I've gone overseas on vacation and stuff like. I put in
Put
the
them back in,
earrings.
yeah.
Yes. Okay. I mean, I'm not afraid to say it. I've put them back in. I'm on the vacation, so
Yeah.
I've done that.
It's your time.
Okay. Now, so the mohawk. If you look at it in the very same light, I felt like having a different hairstyle at that particular point in time. And I decided I was going to have a mohawk for exactly 1 year.
Sweet. It was a finite period of time. You said, oh,
And so for 1 year, I had the mohawk, and I heard again all of the different criticisms about my hairstyle. Oh, you're deputy prime minister, and you got this boyish hairstyle, and all of this, and all of that, and all of. I never heard that in terms of the ministry that I had responsibility for, that I wasn't performing or anything like that. But again, a part of it is the society
true.
that we live in. Because you go to other territories. I remember attending a funeral in St. Croix, and the deputy governor for the Virgin Islands, he wears earrings. I had professors at school who wore earrings. dreadlocks, all this sort of thing.
Right.
And but I think the society is evolving, but we still have that conservative sector of the societies of the view that this is the look.
Well. It's interesting that you spoke about your work and how it's supposed to be seen as face value and not looking at what you're wearing or your hairstyle. Because I actually have a public apology to make because it seems as though that I might have caused a lot of the things that are happening to come to pass. Because apparently in February of last year, I had a skit, right, that actually turned out to be a prediction of what happened. And since we've already established that you have a healthy sense of humor, I feel I could play this for you without getting afraid I'm going to get in trouble with you. It was an impromptu skit with Sugar Bowl and myself. He was a guest on the show. And this is just like a 1.5 minute excerpt. I want you to take a listen. Judge me on how well I spoke like you. But you're going to hear everything. This is before all the drama, And I believe in my heart that I caused it. So I'm here to apologize. And we're going to see how we can right this ship. Okay, so go ahead, Mr. Producer. Run it.
So, second winner session. So, we are all going to go around and have each one of you talk about what you're most proud of. So let's start with you, Sean. So I was the Minister of Education, and I wanted to make sure that I built the Bastia High School as a minister. I was also the Minister of Youth and Sports and Culture, and I always had a good time during Carnival. Those years were one of my best years, and I'm going to be the next Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, and I also...
Almost instantly, Timothy Harris butted in.
Okay, Mr. Deputy Prime Minister. You have done a wonderful job being the Deputy Prime Minister. Your position as Deputy Prime Minister has been one of the best I have ever seen, and I appreciate you for being my Deputy Prime Minister. You have always been on the mark with everything, and mark my words, you will always have my support, especially from my position as Prime Minister.
So, Mr. Harris, what are you most proud of? I've heard lots of good things about you. I've heard about the poverty alleviation plan and how you've handled COVID well and the capital projects taking place, and not to talk about how well you've handled crime. You must be proud of your achievements.
Well, for over 25 years, we had a nation that was heading in the wrong direction. And it was on February 15, 2015, that the people of this great nation made a choice and said no to. Just then, there was a loud bang on the door, and Denzel Douglas and Donald Trump rushing in pockets shouting, "Sabotage! Sabotage! Sabotage!"
The session leader quickly called for security, but just then Obama stood up and started glowing like there was a bright aura around him, and his voice chimed through the air saying,
"Let there be peace." I mean, look at you.
That was good. I enjoyed that. That was good.
Yeah. You ain't heard about it before?
No.
It was a 15-minute skit,
Yeah.
I wrote it in like 1 hour. Sugar Bowl was in here. And we performed it. He didn't know he was going to perform it. So it was like a skit talking about a winner's circle, people who win and people who lose. And they were supposed to be getting therapy for losing and everything.
Okay.
So I was Joe Biden, I was Obama, I was you, I was Dr. Timothy Harris, I was Kamala Harris, and I was Donald Trump. And then Bull was Dougie. Oh my gosh. He did a wonderful,
that's something you would enjoy.
wonderful job. But yeah, man, I believe I caused it. So I just, I was going to do part 2, but now I'm afraid I have all this power. So let me just turn it to you and ask you to take us on a journey of what you want to see happening in this country over the next couple of years. And with the same time, acknowledging, this is very important, I want you to acknowledge the good that has happened over these past years. and not just with this administration, but good things. Because I find people to be more credible when they can come and at the very least acknowledge. You can't come and say nothing good has happened. So acknowledge the good, but also take us on a journey of what you want to see coming to pass over the next couple of years.
Thank you. And I've always said to persons that I don't believe, and I will never say that any political party or any government hasn't done anything good, because we are all human.
Yeah.
You have the good, you have the bad. Yes, I mean, we engage in a debate, and when we engage in debate, sometimes persons may feel we tend to focus more on the negative than on the positive. But certainly, I think each administration has done quite a number of things to build this country.
Thank you. I want to hear more politicians talking that way, because you become more credible. You then can say, I can improve on the good. You just can't come and say they haven't done anything good. By the time I hear that, as a person, as a citizen, I get turned off. I know your phone is ringing. You're soon done. We're soon done. Oh, Delwayne, could you stop? Could you stop? He's on my show. I know where you are. You don't want where you behave. All right. So continue. What do you want to see?
What I would want to see for this country is for us to be able to have more of our own nationals helping to build this country. And when I say our nationals, I mean across the political divide. I think we need to empower more of our own citizens, not just to work for others, but to own businesses. I think to a large extent also, rather than being the consumers of innovation, we need to become the innovators. And so we need to ensure that whether it is we're going to develop the skill set in terms of giving persons the ability to get the education, the training, to become business owners, to become innovators, we have to do that. Whether it is we have to empower them with the financial resources, whether it is we have to equip them with other assets such as land, etc., to be able to do it, we need to start doing more and more and more of that. Because I do believe that the more persons, the more of our own people are actually innovators, we will see more growth and development in terms of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. And that could be in so many different spheres of our development. Because being an innovator doesn't necessarily mean in terms of a product. It could be a service. And so how do we empower our people to do it? How do we encourage more of our people to be able to do so? It is going to take a radical change, and a change perhaps at the very primary level, because part of it also means that we need to become risk takers. We can't just accept that the safe way to go about doing this is to work for someone else. The safe way of doing this is to continually import. The safe way of doing this is for other persons to come in and to do it for us.
You're speaking my language, and I love what you're saying. I pray it becomes a reality, because with our economy being so fragile, as being dependent on tourism, and you can see just how quickly things could just fall apart for the small man, for and also middle income earners, because the CBI program kind of kept us afloat. But for the people on the street who are dependent on tourism, it hit them pretty hard. And so they're innovators. They're all around. You're looking at one actually.
Very good.
I have 3 startups already, and I'm wondering this is a way to diversify the economy.
It is.
To have these, trust me, kids have amazing ideas that are worth exploring. My 6-year-old has amazing ideas that are worth exploring. And we have, like you just said, from that early age.
But that's the unfortunate thing, because and the research would show that even in terms of creativity, that at that age, we tend to be very creative. But then what you find happen after that is the society, the education system, the households, we don't encourage them to be creative. We don't encourage them to be innovative. And so they start fitting into a particular way of thinking, a particular way of doing things. And so that creativity becomes stifled.
I like you, okay? That's what I want to hear you talking about on the top of Brimstone Hill with a big megaphone or whatever, saying that this is what we want. This is what young people want to hear. This is what we need. This is a peace initiative. All of them are creative, as you've already identified in your dissertation. If they can be creative with their problem solving, they can also be creative in their income generation.
And it can be taught.
I hope you get the support that you need for something like this, because it can only benefit everybody. It's a win-win.
It is. It is, because then you will not only see it in terms of, businesses, but in terms of persons and, the social life, etc. You will see more of that coming to the fore. And so you will see the benefits to the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. So it's something that we really need to work on.
Trust me. Like, when I see you on a platform again, I want you to say everything that you just said this again in the same, but with more passion and everything. That's what we want to hear. It's realistic. It's not pie in the sky.
I agree with you. I fully agree with you. So you have given your support, and I give you my commitment in terms as best as possible is seeing it become a reality.
Thank you. We soon done, eh? This was supposed to be 45 minutes, but the conversation's been going so good. I have one more question, but I think I can answer it, but you're going to answer it because you've said so much. When all is said and done, what would you want your legacy to reflect?
In terms of what my legacy would reflect, I want it to be someone who has made a real contribution towards the development of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. Not one who has seen persons necessarily in terms of political colors, but one who has made that attempt to reach out to all persons and to be able to assist persons in so much as I am able to. And I think that is perhaps one of the reasons why I have a number of persons that would reach out to me on so many different issues. Persons would say you're accessible, you respond to persons, whether it is in terms of calls, persons come to the office, I try as best as possible to see them. They may not get an immediate appointment, but I try to see them, and I try to see how as best as possible I can assist persons with their issues. And if nothing else for me, I have said to persons, your name is important. And so while it may not be a particular project per se, I think in terms of persons, feeling that you have made a difference in their lives, that for me gives me a sense of satisfaction and accomplishment. I've said to persons, for example, that when I was at the Ministry of Education, my proudest moment perhaps was seeing 54 teachers graduate with a master's degree. Now, that is something that you can't necessarily stand up and point at, because it's not a building, it's not, necessarily some sort of physical structure. And when I gave support to that particular program, I took the decision as the minister that we would pay half of the cost. And I think we actually paid a little over of half of the cost for those teachers to pursue their master's degree with the University of the West Indies in collaboration with CFBC. I had some teachers within the schools where some of the teachers start to complain that the teachers come into school and sometimes they're spending some time doing assignments that they have, doing research, etc. And I recognize that yes, that perhaps would be one of the disadvantages. But I looked at it more in terms of what would be the long-term advantages. If you have teachers who are more educated at the end of the day in terms of the education system benefits from it. But for me, it went beyond the education system because you're helping an individual to develop himself or herself. And so beyond the education system, the benefits to that person, the benefits to the society, the benefits to the family that they live in. They're part of different organizations. The organizations, of course, would also benefit from that. And for me, teaching, yes, you have the student Sean in front of you, but beyond the student Sean, after you would have impacted the student Sean is then able to impact someone else. So while it is that the person immediately in front of you is Sean, you're actually teaching future generations
The trickle down
and
effect.
so many other persons. And so that, as I said, perhaps is my proudest accomplishment as the then Minister of Education.
Wow. I just got a live, Jawole Davis says, I'm enjoying the dialogue. I had the pleasure of learning from Sean well at TDC.
Yes,
Doing my
I
studies.
remember,
He's
yes.
selfless, and I don't doubt his intentions. So, yeah.
Good night, Ja.
So, wow, I didn't want this to end, but I mean, we people, thank you. The live has been very, the numbers have been very healthy. And we're going to end with what I normally end with. This is a rapid fire session with 10 questions, short questions. And after that, we're done. So I asked them first person, and you just answer them as honestly as you can. You're a straight shooter. So number one, best place to eat good street food in St. Kitts is?
Good street food, I would probably say OJ's.
OJ's, all right. Number
Yes.
two, Carnival is making a return this year. This is what I'm looking forward to the most.
Juve.
Number three, definitely not missing this night on Music Fest.
The Thursday night is the best night for me.
All right. Number four, I really love traveling to this country.
Trinidad.
Number five, I find a time machine that's able to take me back to the beginning of 2022. This is the advice I will give to Sean when I see him.
To 2022?
The beginning of 2022, January. Trust me, I know why I'm asking this question.
The start of 2022.
Yep, January 1st, 2022.
January 1st, 2022.
I see Sean, and hey, Sean. Yeah. What does Sean tell Sean? Time machine.
That perhaps he would be in the biggest political turmoil of his life at this point in time.
You will not tell him do something different. You will not tell him maybe just. Anyway.
Not necessarily, because I also believe, as I said, that God ordains our steps in a particular way, and I have a strong sense of faith.
Okay.
And if it is that you know what is going to happen, then you don't have that sense of faith.
You know, in the Caribbean, we don't pronounce TH, eh? So you said FATE. Strong sense of faith. I
Faith.
know. I'm just pulling your legs. All right, number six. My greatest strength as a leader is?
I think being able to speak to different persons from the top of the society to the bottom of the society.
Sweet. All right, number number seven. I really wish I could learn how to play this musical instrument.
Probably the violin.
Wow. All right. Learn something new about him again. Number eight. I definitely look up to this world leader as a role model.
Obama.
All right. All right. That's a very good person. Oh, President Obama is in the building. All right. Number nine. SP is where the best be. And this place is where the second best be.
Crab Hill.
Okay. And number 10, staple question I always ask on the show. Best part about being on the show is?
I actually enjoyed it. You made me laugh. It was different to the politics. I mean, when you get up in the morning and you have over 100 WhatsApp questions, your messages, and most of them are about politics. You go through the day, and most of the meetings are about politics, etc. You need a break from it. And a lot of persons feel that because you're a politician, the only thing that you're capable of discussing is politics. They don't recognize that you have a life beyond the politics. I mean, you go out and 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, somebody wants to discuss politics with you, and you have to say to them, no, not at this time. You go walking 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, and somebody wants to stop you in the middle of walking to discuss politics, and somebody has an emergency 5 o'clock in the morning, and so because they're awake at 5 o'clock in the morning, he's either go knock on his door, wake him up, or call his phone and wake him up to discuss my issue. And they don't feel that you have a life of your own. So for me, this was a welcome break from that.
Thank you. This has been one of my best exchanges on this show, episode 81. And I was thinking about having you on board last year, but in the year before, I just never got to ask, and I was also scared. I was like,
why?
I was wondering if he's gonna say no, but also, but this year I had a conduit. Delwayne is my former.
But
teammate.
it goes back to one of the last things that you said, because your politician persons feel you can't discuss anything other than politics. They can't approach you because you're this different individual. And that certainly isn't the case.
So you have been humanized on the show. I know everybody who's been watching can feel the same way. And people who didn't know things about you are learning more about the human being, the person in Sean K. Richards. And I hope that when they see you on the platform, albeit in your element, that there's a part of them that comes back and remembers he wants to play the violin.
I like listening to violin music. It's soothing.
All of these things that we're learning now about just who you are as a person. So I wish you nothing but the best, especially with everything that you have said. It's a win-win for everybody. And if there's anything else that you would like to say before we close, you have the floor.
I certainly want to thank you for having me here this evening. Thank you to all of your listeners for tuning in. I've enjoyed my time here with you, and I would be quite happy to return.
Can't wait. So people, he came, he participated, he was honest, he was a straight shooter, and everything that y'all made me think about him is different now, okay?
And there's so many other things I could have spoken about, the different jobs I've done. I worked at Pueblo in St. Thomas as a bag boy, packing bags for persons, taking them out in their vehicle. I actually enjoy doing that job because the tips sometimes amounted to more than the weekly salary, and I could have lived off the tips. I worked as a waiter.
Wow.
Doing jobs again while I was at UVA, because again it gave you that additional income. So Sean is far more than the politician that persons know of.
So this show is going to be re-aired on Sunday, and it's also going to be on the Win FM's Facebook page, as well as on my page, as well on YouTube. So y'all share this and take clips and share the clips and the memes, because this is positive stuff. Camera one, you can spread and make good things that are positive viral, right? Not just the sound bites that y'all keep waiting for and saying, oh yeah, see this. No, clip these and share them, because everybody who is doing good deserves the time of day to be recognized for the good in the moment. Good is inherently good, regardless of what you may feel in the moment. When a person is reflecting good, take them for what they are in the moment. Good people, good vibes, good everything.
Thank you again.
All right. Remember to be kind and to spread love always. Until I see you guys next week. Peace out.
Experience the value. Get the cable's value bundle today. Internet, Ultra TV, free HBO Max, and a free Cable Platinum Loyalty MasterCard for only $157 monthly. Feel the thrill of 74 channels of Ultra TV. Feel the rush of the cable's 35 megabyte Bolt Internet. Maximum streaming entertainment is free with HBO Max and the ultra convenience of the Platinum Loyalty MasterCard. Shop, save, share, and don't forget, get a free internet upgrade when you pay your cable bills with Platinum Loyalty MasterCard. Not a cable customer? Sign up today and get more out of your internet, TV, shopping, and payment experience. The cable's value bundle, Ultra TV, internet, free HBO Max, and Platinum Loyalty MasterCard at $250 value for only $157 per month. Call the cable 465-258